Does it bother me the last book is in hardback? Yes. Yes, it does. Am I going to replace it? No. Alright, my name is Kelsey, and we are about to get very, very nerdy with some books that I forgot that I loved and a special unboxing. So like I said, before we get into the video, I have a very large special unboxing for you guys. So the lovely people at Mapiful reached out to me and asked if they could send me something to show for you guys. And of course I said yes. So Mapiful is a customizable, 100% customizable poster and mapping company. And I think they're amazing. So I haven't opened what I ordered yet, or what they have sent me yet, because I wanted to do that with you, but I did want to tell you a little bit about them. So like I said, they are a poster company. They have 4 options for you. You can do a map, you can do a poster based on your zodiac sign, you can do a poster based on the stars of a certain day that's important to you, or you can do what they call a text art Mapiful, and that is just where you upload your own picture, you choose the text, and the text will create the picture that you just uploaded. So I went with a very classic map is what I decided to do, and I did it based on a fictional place. So let me just open this up. You can also get it with or without frames, or I don't remember, like some kind of hanging thing that they created where it's not a frame, but it's like a wooden or metal thing that you can put at the top and the bottom that weighs it down, and you can hang it that way if you wanted to get a hanger along with your map. I just got this very classic like black frame that will go into it. I did not realize it was going to be this large. I think I got the medium sized. Yeah, I did get the medium size, so it's 50 by 70 centimeters. The smallest you can get is 30 by 40. But the actual map itself is in here. It looks so cool. So this is what it looks like. I did Pemberley, because that's who I am as a person. So I chose the spot in England that is roughly, it's thought to believe is based off of Pemberley, which is this place called Lime Park, which, fun fact, is where they filmed the Pemberley scenes for the 95. Isn't it cool? That's where the Pemberley place is. That little spot right there. That's the building. So cool. Oh my gosh. So this is what it looks like. I'm gonna have to insert a like actual much better shown picture of this, but this is what it looks like in its frame. I think it looks amazing. The bottom says Pemberley, and then it says Pride and Prejudice, and then I decided to put a quote that's like one of my favorites by Darcy, and it says, "You must allow me to tell you how ardently I admire and love you." But that's what I decided to do. Is I'm not even kidding you, I got to choose what words went down there. I could have put the much longer quote, which I did try to do, it just didn't look great. I got to choose the font that was down here. I chose how close or large away the actual map is. It's totally up to you on how close or far you want to go when it comes to the map, and then you can choose how it looks. Like I got to choose literally every single thing about this was up to me. But yeah, I chose Pemberley because I love Pride and Prejudice. Like, what? Y'all know this about me. I freaking love that place. So thank you so much, Mapiful, for sending this to me. Now I just gotta figure out where it's gonna go. So now that I have unboxed that, it kind of got me thinking, because like I said on it, it is based on Pemberley, and y'all know I freaking love Pride and Prejudice. I love Pemberley. I love Jane Austen. But that got me thinking about some books that I love that maybe you guys have never heard of, or you never heard me talk about. So that's what we're going to do today, is we're going to go through some books that I have honestly forgotten that I loved. And almost all of these, I'm pretty sure all of these I read before I started my booktube channel, so you guys probably wouldn't have heard me rave about them when I read them, but I still wanted to talk about them because they're books that I love and they're fun. So I do have a couple series here of books that I read when I was a little bit younger, kind of in my tween-teen years, and the first one is The Secrets of the Immortal Nicholas Flamel series by Michael Scott. There are There are 7 books in this series. This is the smallest one. And this one is just called The Alchemist. And it basically follows these 2 kids. It's been a while since I read this. So this basically follows 2 siblings. Their names are Sophie and Josh. And they are really good friends with this old man who turns out to be Nicholas Flamel, and his wife. And then there's this evil villain who's trying to steal the book where they create the elixir of life, and they create basically how they stay alive for many, many years. And it gets very deep into mythology. It dives in there. It gets really trippy, especially near the end. But I just loved this. I devoured it. I went from book to book. Honestly, my dad picked these up, and that's why we have them, and I decided to read them because he loved them so much. And I understand where he's coming from. Honestly, I think in today's world, these would be considered more middle grade than like young YA, but they're still really good. And if you like a book, it's kind of like Percy Jackson, where it's full of different types of mythology, but it's also very action-packed, and you've got mythology mixing with contemporary times. This is it. But it's more like a magical mythology than like Greek mythology, which I guess is magical now that I'm thinking about it. But I loved this series, and honestly, like, I need to go back into them. Talking about them is making me want to read them again, which is dangerous when I have literally a million other things I should be reading. The next one is actually going to be a nonfiction, so that's a little out of the ordinary just because, like, I don't read a lot of nonfiction. I mean, I do now, but I didn't used to. But that is Evolving in Monkeytown by Rachel Held Evans. This is a book that one of my uncles gave me right after my freshman year in college, and it's basically about a girl who is very religious who comes to this town, and it's all about the Scoops monkey trial, where it's talking about whether or not creation and evolution can be taught in schools. And it's an entire trial based around all of that, and it follows this woman who lives in this town. And it was at a time when I was like discovering my religion again, and also like questioning everything. So I really, really enjoyed this because it gave me a different look at Christianity than I had gotten in the past, which I really appreciated. So I just remember absolutely devouring this story and loving it. This would be a fun one to go back into, but yeah, I loved this when I read it. So the next one is kind of an odd one because, like, I consider it a book, but like, is it a book? It's like a graphic novel comic, and that are the Archie comics. I have a bunch of these little small ones that are like double digest pals and gals versions, and these were always at the checkouts at Publix. So whenever we would go to Publix, I would ask my parents to grab me one of these, and so I have a good handful of these. But I just remember adoring the Archie comics. I thought they were fantastic, and I still have quite a few with me here. They're just fun reads to go into. I really like the Archie comics, and so when I was thinking about this idea, these came to mind because I used to read these literally all the time. Yeah, I definitely do not talk about those at all on this channel. The next one is the only one I think that I have talked about recently, and that is because I just happened to haul it, and that is Night by Elie Wiesel. This is a book that I read in 9th grade in my English class, and it's about Elie Wiesel, but it's a nonfiction following Elie in the Holocaust because he was one of the survivors of Auschwitz, one of the concentration camps. And he does have 3 books in this series, but I only read this one for school, and I remember when I read it, I absolutely adored it. Now it's tough to get through because it's about the Holocaust, but I remember really enjoying it's not the right word, but that's all I can think of when I was reading it. This one was really great, especially it definitely blurs the lines between fiction and nonfiction because it's written and it feels like a fiction, like a historical fiction book, but it's not. It's totally a real story. It's this guy's story that he can remember from when he's younger. And I just think this is a good crossover from fiction to nonfiction if you're wanting to get more into nonfiction because it's written like a fiction book. Does that make any sense? But it's very, I liked it a lot. The next one is one that I also read, I think in 9th grade actually, or no, it was 10th grade. I read this in 10th grade. Wow, numbers. But that is The Kite Runner. I loved this story when I was reading it. It is not an easy story. It is a really hard story to get through. There is some very triggering content, especially for younger readers, like I was when I was reading it. but it's so well crafted that it sticks with you. And the fact that I haven't read it, and like it's been many, many, many years since I've read it, and it's still in my head, it says something. It's a very intense story about these two kids who knew each other when they were younger, and then a bunch of things happen, and it follows them many, many years later. I realize how vague that sounds, but I don't want to like tell you anything about this book if you haven't read it, because it is so good, and literally anything I say would spoil it. The next one is one that I remembered honestly because my husband read it not that long ago, and that is The Westing Game by Ellen Raskin. This is a kind of serious clue, is kind of how I think about it. It follows this man named Samuel Weston who has died, and it's his will, and he likes to play games on people. So he basically brings all these people together, gives them his will, and basically they have to solve a puzzle, and whoever solves it gets all of the money. And it just follows the bunch of different people who were all living, I believe, in the same like complex as they're trying to figure out what's going on. But it's very good if you like Clue, if you like those kind of detective murder mystery solving the puzzle kind of stories. This is your book. And also it's small, so it's not a large commitment. I loved it. The next one that I want to talk about is The Secret Life of Bees by Sue Monk Kidd. This is one that I also had to read for school. A lot of this I'm realizing I had to read for school, but like I was one of those people who loved a lot of the books that I read, and this is one of those. I'm pretty sure this was like a summer reading that was required, but I love this story so much. And I will say that I was one of the people who watched the movie with Dakota Fanning and like 10 million other people that I'm an idiot and blanking on when it came out, and then read this when I had to read it for school. But even though I knew it was happening, it's such a heartwarming and heartbreaking story, like all at the same time. It's so good. I don't even remember how to describe what this book is about, but it does follow our main character, whose name I'm blanking on, and she's in a not great situation, so she runs away and ends up being taken in by this house of sisters, and it's just their lives, and it's good. It took everything in me to not read beyond what I was supposed to. Like, it was one of those books. I think I did it anyway because I was that person. But I loved this, and this is a book that I do not own, but I really would like to, just because I remember loving it so much, and I don't remember a lot about the actual plot. But it was so good. Ugh, it was so good. So the next one is actually an adult book that I read just a few years ago, but it was before I started my booktube channel, and that is One Amazing Thing by Chitra Karoni. I said all of that wrong, and I apologize. This follows 9 strangers who are in a visa office, but while they're in this office, an earthquake happens, which gets them trapped in this office, and the office is slowly flooding. So one of the people who are stuck there is a graduate student, and she decides that they should all sit down and kind of like calm down and share one amazing thing from their lives. So it's these 9 strangers sharing things from their lives. And it's very well written. It was very well done. I loved learning all these little things about people. It was so good, you guys. And I made my parents read this. I know my mom for sure read this. I'm not sure if my dad read it, but I wanted my parents to read it. I wanted everyone I knew to read it because it was so good. And I honestly forgot that I had it. It's kind of hiding on a part of my shelf that like I don't pick from very often. So I forgot that I had it. But it was so good, and I freaking loved this story because it's heartwarming, it's heartbreaking, you're learning all of these things about these people, they're sharing their lives when they're in a situation, and they don't think they're going to make it out. This is all about the power of stories and connecting with people, and it was just beautiful. It was so good. And the last one that I'm going to talk about is actually a series as well, and that is the Inkheart series by Cornelia. I always said it was Funk, but I've heard people say Funku. I have no idea if I'm right. As you can see, this is a very well-loved copy that is falling apart, but like I can't bring myself to replace it. This follows a girl named Maggie whose father has a special ability where when he reads out loud from a book, he can make things from the book he's reading come into the real world, and vice versa. So it's kind of like a trade where something from the book will come into the real world and something from the real world will go into a book. And that gets him in trouble, as I'm sure you can guess. And this follows Maggie and him a few years, actually many years after bad things happen, and it's the repercussions of said bad things. How vague can you make it, Kelsey? But I always just found the idea of being able to read things out of books so fascinating. So this is the first in a trilogy. The second one is Ink Spell, and the third one is Ink Death. But it's very well written. I've learned recently that this was not originally written in English. I think it was German. Yep, it says it right there, translated from German. I never knew that. You learn new things every day. I just really liked the creativity of the story, and the idea of bringing things from books into the real world was just fascinating. So this is a series that I really, really enjoy. So yeah, those are some of the books that I have read in the past that I have absolutely loved and just forgotten about or never really talked about. So I wanted to do that today. So that is really all I have for you guys today. Again, thank you to Mapiful for sending me the beautiful map that I'm gonna have to figure out where to put. It was incredible. I will leave a link down below if you would like to check them out, because they're, y'all, like, they're fabulous. I highly recommend them. And if you have read any of the books that I have talked about in this video, let's chat down below, or tell me a book that you honestly forgot that you loved or have read such a long time but is still one that you really, really love but you just don't talk about a lot. Let's share some old favorites. But thank you guys so much for watching, and if you did like it, make sure to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you want to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there as well if you want to follow along on any of those. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!